Welcome to Janet's Planet, where we are traveling to Mars. NASA is inviting students all over the globe to get involved and complete the Mission to Mars Student Challenge. Teachers, educators, families, all you have to do is register at the link below. And over the course of the next 5 weeks, you're going to be able to plan, build, and design your mission to Mars. Whether it's your lander, or making your own rover glasses, using art to create your image of Mars, or maybe you love ingenuity and you want to make your own helicopter. Wow! Ingenuity, a high-risk, high-reward mission that is going to be the Wright brothers moment of the Red Planet. And if you go, I don't really have all those things at my house, Janet, it's okay. That's what we want you to do. Get creative. What do you have? You can't print out the NASA straw rocket? You can make your own. Super simple to do. Roll up a piece of paper, create a triangle, and look. Works just as well. And you built it. You engineered it. Way to go. And here's another thing that you can try. Want to try launching a balloon rocket? Try this. Now, if you have string, you can go from the floor to the ceiling. Let's see. And then all you have to do, hold that, don't let it go. And then you just have a straw, because you're going to need something to take that balloon up there. The air will push out the back, creating a bit of propulsion. And let's see how this thing flies. We'll tape it there on that side. Tape it here on that side. And whoa! It worked pretty darn well. Now you're going, but I don't have any string. How about floss? I mean, unused dental floss, or sewing thread, or crochet yarn. Get creative. What if I don't have a balloon? Maybe you could find a shopping bag and create that. I don't know, because this is your mission to Mars. Use your art to draw, design, and execute your mission. On February 18th, we will all join together and watch Perseverance successfully land on the Red Planet. This mission is yours. This challenge is yours if you accept it. It's the NASA Mission to Mars Student Challenge. Even the engineers at NASA will be cheering for you. So join us. NASA's Mission to Mars Student Challenge. And as we get ready for Perseverance to land on the Red Planet, we want all of you to know just a little bit more about the fourth planet from the sun, Mars. The red color of Mars is due to the high level of iron oxide in its soil. The wind spreads the iron oxide dust and carries it into the atmosphere, where it reflects the red part of the light spectrum and causes the planet to appear red. As telescopes improved, so did the opportunities for people to get a close-up look at the red planet. In 1840, the first map of Mars was published. When astronomers mistakenly thought they had detected water in the Martian atmosphere, the idea of life on Mars became popularized among the public. And some Earthlings began to wonder if those living on Mars were peaceful Martians, while others worried that the inhabitants from Mars might be warlike. When the 1938 radio play of The War of the Worlds was broadcast, some folks panicked, thought the radio broadcast was real, and that Martians had actually reached Earth and landed in New Jersey. Silly Earthlings. So what exactly does a rover do on Mars? Well, in essence, they are Mars science laboratories, looking for life, looking for geology that is different from Earth. And they have stumbled across rocks that pointed to an earlier, unrulier Mars that was marked by impacts, explosive volcanoes, and subsurface water.
What did the astronaut cook for lunch? An unidentified frying object.
Mars to Earth, can you read me?
how the heck do we actually find out about these amazing discoveries the rovers make? Well, it's a little more complicated than just a cell phone or a text message. Since scientists can't really speak to the rovers, they have to communicate and type in codes and commands that they then beam to one of the 3 satellites in Earth's deep space network. The dish passes the commands to a spacecraft that is orbiting Mars, usually the Mars Odyssey, which beams the messages to the rovers at an appointed time. And then they wait for information from the rovers to be transmitted back to Earth. In general, the information is intercepted and sent to the orbiting Mars Odyssey and Mars Global Surveyor, which then transmits the data back to Earth, and vice versa. NASA's next Mars rover, Perseverance, has an ambitious mission. Decades of Mars research from previous spacecraft have shown the planet not only had water in the ancient past, but had environments that could have supported life.
Mars is our neighboring planet and in many ways the most similar to us, and certainly in its history. And the question whether ancient life was there is still the question that keeps us up at night.
Mars 2020 has 2 new objectives: to specifically seek the signs of life and then sample materials and prepare a cache that could be returned to Earth by a future mission.
Mars 2020 is really the essential first part of a sample return mission. So it actually looks at the environment of these samples and then collects them and stores them. Afterwards, we will of course go and bring these samples back. So Mars 2020 is the first half of a return trip.
The Mars 2020 mission, to the maximum extent possible, follows the Mars Science Laboratory Curiosity mission. We're going to use very similar rocket, very similar cruise stage, very similar entry, descent, and landing. And the rover, when you step back, will look almost identical.
Not only were a lot of designs already developed for the most part, but we're also using a lot of spare hardware that we had from MSL or Curiosity for Mars 2020. If you know where to look on Lab, you can walk around and see a lot of the EDL hardware and the cruise stage hardware that's already been built.
And this is really important for understanding why this mission makes sense. We have to do relatively little in the way of new development. And this saves money, it saves risk, it saves time. It's the right way to pursue this kind of mission.
The Perseverance rover also features new technologies for entry, descent, and landing, allowing it to target a smaller landing zone and even divert from known risk in the area.
It means that we can both go to places that are maybe more interesting to the scientists because we're able to handle places with more hazards, as well as land closer to the things that they're interested in off the bat. So we get to the science that they care about and more quickly.
The 3 key sites that we are considering right now share one thing in common. They are all environments that might have been habitable in the very distant past. One of them is the floor of an ancient lake. Another is a hot spring. And the third one is a site where hot water interacted with rocks in the shallow subsurface. We have instruments on board which are expressly designed to seek evidence of ancient life, what we call biosignatures. And we have the capability to prepare samples, drill them out of a rock, seal them in a tube so that a future mission could go and bring them up. We call that caching.
So it is a first of a new type of mission, which is to bring samples back to the best labs we have, which are here on Earth. Mars 2020 is a pivotal mission in our search for life that could finally answer the age-old question, are we alone?
Prior to launching Mars rovers, NASA has held essay contests to name those rovers. Now here is a blast from the past. This essay was by Sophie Colas, the little girl who gave Spirit and Opportunity their names. This is what she wrote.
I used to live in an orphanage. It was dark and cold and lonely. At night, I looked up at the sparkly sky and felt better. I dreamed I could fly there. In America, I can make all my dreams come true. Thank you for the spirit and the opportunity.
And now let's meet Alex Mather, the rising 8th grader who gave Perseverance its name with this essay.
Curiosity, insight, spirit, opportunity. If you think about it, all of these names of past Mars rovers are qualities we possess as humans. We are always curious and seek opportunity. We have the spirit and insight to explore the moon, Mars, and beyond. But if rovers are to be the qualities of us as a race, we miss the most important thing: perseverance. We as humans evolved as creatures who could learn to adapt to any situation, no matter how harsh. We are a species of explorers, and we will meet many setbacks on the way to Mars. However, we can persevere. We, not as a nation, but as humans, will not give up. The human race will always persevere into the future. My name is Alexander Mather, and that's why I chose Perseverance as the name of NASA's next Mars rover. I don't really think that there is a word in any human language that can describe the feeling of having your name selected to be part of a mission from the greatest agency in the world, doing the most important things to help humanity spread to the stars. I am 13 years old, and I did not expect that I would be making any form of impact on human space exploration like this until I was at least out of college, or maybe in an internship. And here I am, and I just named a rover. Something I submitted was chosen by people who one day I plan to work with, and that's incredible. To me, perseverance means that in the inevitable setbacks that we're going to face on the main way to Mars, humans won't give up. Humans will keep on sending new missions, humans will keep on improving technologies, and humans will eventually live on other places throughout the solar system, and maybe even beyond. And that's just so important for all of our futures.
How about we build our own rover? I'd like to show you how to make your very own toothbrush bot. You're going to need a pager motor, either a 1 volt to a 3 volt motor, just like this. We got ours at an electronics store. Now, if you don't have a pager motor, you can always remove one from, say, a broken electronic device. Now, you're also going to need a 1-button cell battery, 1 volt to 3 volt. You want to match the pager motor. Then you're going to need a toothbrush with angled bristles. Now, if you don't have a toothbrush with angled bristles, all you have to do is put a heavy book or just kind of just bend the toothbrush down. It's going to make the bristles angle backwards. Now, you'll need some pliers, maybe even some wire cutters, and you're also going to need something to make it all stick together. Rubber band, mounting tape, double stick tape, anything. You can get creative. But the science rule number 1, you guys, is that you always have to ask permission when you're doing a science experiment. First, we're going to cut off the toothbrush head. Now, you're just going to snip the head just a little bit. You want to leave a little bit of an end. It's pretty simple. There you go. See? Not hard at all. Now we're going to fasten or attach the motor really firmly to the top of the toothbrush head. Now, I have to say that what I really liked best were these mounting squares, mainly because they're sort of already cut in half for you. Now, you want to put your vibrating motor right there at this end of the toothbrush where we cut it off at. Make sure it's secured there with the mounting tape. Next, what we want to do is we need to connect this wire. Once we really have our pager motor set where we think we want to have it set, let's take, what I did, for example, is I took the black wire and the head and I just press it gently onto that mounting tape. Now we're going to create some connectivity here with this red wire, see right there? And then we're going to put our piece of tape right there on top of it, making sure that's secure. And then look what we're going to do. We're going to place that down on top. Oh, I feel like my rover's ready to go. Now what's happening here is the vibration motor provides movement in all directions, and this is transferred to the bristles of the brush. Now, because some of these vibrations cause the toothbrush head to kind of bounce up and down, and the bristles of the brush are angled, the toothbrush bot actually moves forward or in circles, and this type of motor can be attached to all kinds of objects, which will cause them to vibrate and move about. And all instructions to make your own Mars BristleBot can be found found on our website at janetsplanet.com. But if you're saying, hey, I'm a coder, I can code my own Mars rover game, or I can code my own Ingenuity helicopter game, then we have the thing for you. We're going to get started on coding a Mars helicopter video game using block programming. The Mars Helicopter Ingenuity is a technology demonstration mission designed to show that a small, lightweight helicopter can fly in the thin atmosphere of Mars. To complete this programming challenge, you'll need to download some files. Now, the link at the end of this video will take you to the website with the files and detailed instructions on how to download the backgrounds and sprites. We're going to use a free programming language called Scratch. You can create an account if you want to revisit and edit your project later, or you can simply click Create to get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is get the helicopter to Mars. Now select Upload a Backdrop from the Choose a Backdrop menu. Browse to the files you downloaded and pick one of the Mars backdrop images. You should see your backdrop image in the stage area now. Next, add the helicopter by clicking Upload Sprite from the Choose a Sprite menu. Select the helicopter sprite that you downloaded. And since we haven't discovered life on Mars yet, let's get rid of the existing sprite by clicking on it in the Sprites window and clicking the X in the corner. Now you need to program controls for the helicopter. The Mars helicopter won't be controlled in real time with a joystick or a keyboard from Earth, but the people who play your game will need some way to control the helicopter. So let's create blocks of code that will make your helicopter fly up, down, left, and right when certain keys are pressed on the keyboard. There is more than one way to code these controls, but let's try starting with the block that says when the green flag is clicked. This will give you more options to control your code as you get further into making your game. Look for an if-then block to add control to the helicopter and figure out what needs to be added to make the helicopter move. Now try looking at the sensing and motion code sections for useful blocks. If your helicopter doesn't seem to be moving after you click the green flag, make sure your code blocks are in a forever loop. Otherwise, the code will only run during the brief moment that you first click the green flag. And don't forget to include code that will keep your helicopter oriented with its rotor on top, no matter what direction it's traveling. If your code is working properly, you should get something like this. Now next, you'll need to add a takeoff location. You can create code blocks that put the helicopter in the same location at the start of the game. Use your X and Y coordinates from the stage area to mark a starting point. Like before, start with the when the green flag is clicked block. If you're not sure what to do next, try looking at blocks in the motion section. As a challenge, consider creating code blocks that make the helicopter start in random spots whenever the game restarts. Now that your helicopter can fly and has a takeoff location, it needs a landing site. The Mars Helicopter Ingenuity will start with a straight up and down flight. Later, its flights will become more complex and travel up to hundreds of meters. You'll need to create a landing site for the helicopter. While the helicopter on Mars won't have a landing pad, your game players will need to know where to land. You can draw a landing location with the Backdrop Costume Editor, or you can add a sprite that will serve as a landing target. If you developed a code block to move the helicopter to random takeoff spots, try making code that moves the landing target to a different random location each time the game is started. The Mars helicopter flights could last up to 90 seconds. To add difficulty to the game, create a countdown timer that limits how long players have to get to the landing site. To do this, create a time variable that starts when the game begins and counts down to 0. The timer should be long enough that the game can be won, but not so long that it's easy to win. Success for game players can be the same as success for the Mars helicopter mission. Mission success success will be achieved when the helicopter makes its first controlled flight on Mars. So develop code blocks that announce mission success when the game players successfully fly and land the helicopter on the target. And now that you have the basics of your game coded, think of ways you can improve your game or make your code more efficient. Challenge family and friends to play your game and ask them for feedback on how it can be improved. Visit the website on the screen or click the link in the video description to download the required files and see more suggested gaming features you can add through coding. And we'd love to see what you create. Friend or follow us on Scratch at Janet's Planet. Let your mind revolve around this thought: code your way to Mars. And we'd love to see what you create. So friend or follow us on Scratch at Janet's Planet. Let me ask you something. Could you use your imagination and your great brain to create a rover that we can play with? Well, we met a guy who did.
Being an engineer and working on the actual Curiosity rover was extremely useful when coming up with a Lego model. In fact, it's the main reason I created the Lego model in the first place. On the Curiosity rover, I was, a new engineer fresh out of school, so I basically started with, smaller design tasks to sort of learn the ropes and get the hang of how things are done. Basically, I start out with making a bunch of design sketches and figuring out if it will fit in there and how it should be made. Once that's all done, you take it and you test it and you measure all its properties and everything, and then you hand it off to someone who then puts it onto the rover. When I started working on my Lego Curiosity rover, I basically had the majority of the main model finished during one long 3-day weekend. That started out by using a bunch of reference photos from the actual Curiosity rover. It also involved drawing sketches on graph paper to see if pieces would fit the way I want them to without having to, build it up a bunch of times and tear it down over and over again. Within a few months, it was pretty much done. I took photos of it and put them online so other people could see my model. The rover itself is like some awesome sci-fi vehicle if you describe it to someone.
Curiosity rover, boldly going where no rover has gone before. With its 6-wheel drive rocker bogie suspension system and mast-mounted cameras, complete with a rocket pack. Curiosity, seriously curious.
It sounds like the coolest, space vehicle ever, except it's not science fiction, it's real, and it's on Mars right now. It was like a kid's dream to be, an official Lego designer, because I imagine lots of kids who have Lego collections thought, it'd be cool if I was a Lego designer and I could do this all day. Basically, I learned that there's nothing that can't be built out of Lego, and so there's always something new and interesting to do.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Stephen is an engineer who identified a problem. Too few kids were interested in the Mars rover. He then brainstormed, what if I made a Lego Mars rover and kids got to play and learn? Then he did his design. He built it. Maybe he had to redesign it. He tested it and evaluated it. And then he shared it with the folks at Lego. And now, here is my Lego Mars rover that I put together, all because of Stephen. I love the design process.
In terms of robots that go into space, the sampling and caching system on the Mars 2020 mission is the most complicated, most sophisticated thing that we know how to build. This is a system that allows us to take core samples of rocky material on the surface of Mars, carefully seal them in very sterile, clean vessels for eventual return to Earth. We've been working on the sampling and caching system for 7 years, and that's because it's a tough job.
We're testing the equipment to make sure that it's going to work when we get to Mars. It has to function on its own. We have to think of all eventual possibilities and try them here first, and then if they don't work, change it now, because we can't make any changes later.
To drill into the rock on Mars, pull out intact core samples, seal them hermetically, and to be all done autonomously by a robot hanging off the end of a rover on the surface of Mars has been a challenge. We've got actually 3 robots necessary to do the sample and caching system. Our big robotic arm out on the front of the rover, that takes our drill, pushes it against the surface, and allows us to take core samples. Then we put that core sample in the bit carousel, the second robot, that takes that from the robot arm and puts it down inside our adaptive caching system. This is the part of the sample and caching system inside the rover. We've got a little tiny robot, a special robot arm called the SHAW, the sample handling arm. It takes the samples out of the bit carousel and moves them through volume assessment, image taking, and eventually to sealing, and then replaces the cylinder containing the sample in a storage spot, all on its own in the matter of a few hours. We have designs on bringing them back in a decade. Mars has been at the fore of our consciousness about the questions of life. Could life exist in one of our nearest neighbors? I think we have a lot to learn, life or no life, about the evolution of our solar system, about our planet, by looking in depth at rocks brought back from Mars.
I am so excited about the landing of the Perseverance rover. Once the rover lands on Mars this week, it will begin to explore the surface of Mars and will take all sorts of data. This data will go to scientists at NASA and will help us learn so much about Mars. Some things that the rover may be able to tell us is whether there was ancient life of any kind on Mars, what is on the surface, and even what is below the surface of Mars. Can't wait to see if they discover anything that is or was alive on Mars. How awesome would that be? Another exciting thing about Perseverance is that the rover will have 23 cameras, so it will take a lot of pictures and video. That will be so interesting to see. I love seeing photos from space, and up-close pictures of Mars will be super cool.
Christopher here. The landing of Perseverance marks a brand new chapter for exploration, as we will gain new and exciting knowledge about the planet Mars. Getting Perseverance to the Martian surface alone is an engineering marvel, a combination of both excellence and engineering. I am extremely excited about MOXIE and can't wait to see the footage from this part of the mission. This mission to Mars puts us one step closer to understanding the red planet, as we humans will one day step foot on Mars. Yes, my generation on Mars!
We want you to get excited about what's up and out there. Let your mind revolve around this thought. The universe is always expanding. Let your mind do the same. And that's the view from Janet's Planet.